Good evening y bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. I'm Hugo Balta, WTTW News Director and your host. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, with just 3 days to go until the election and millions of votes already cast, the Latino vote is more consequential than ever. Sylvia Puente of the Latino Policy Forum shares insights about this historic election. Women could decide who wins the election. We'll hear from 4 Latino voters about what they're hoping to see in the next 4 years.
I'm trying to build a bridge, between both countries.
Arts correspondent Angel Ido tries her hand at painting alebrijes with an indigenous artist from Mexico.
Public libraries play an important role in a healthy democracy.
And la última palabra on why libraries are crucial to a just and equitable society. But first, some of the top stories from this week. As cases of coronavirus continue to climb, more parts of the state are feeling the effects of returning COVID restrictions. As of this weekend, all indoor dining and drinking at Chicago restaurants and in a few surrounding counties is suspended. And indoor gatherings are capped at 25 people or 25% room capacity. Community and environmental activists in Little Village have erected 2 billboards demanding answers from Hillco Redevelopment Partners, the developer behind a disastrous implosion at the former Crawford coal plant. Activists say Hillco has failed to live up to promises of transparency and community cooperation following the environmental calamity that blanketed Little Village in a cloud of dust. The demolition was part of a plan to make way for a truck depot for the Target retail chain. October 29th marked Latina Equal Pay Day, the day that demonstrates how far into 2020 an average Latina must work to earn what the average white man earned in 2019. A virtual event hosted by the Equal Pay Day Chicago Coalition discussed how the wage gap affects all women but hits Latina women the hardest. While the average American woman makes 82 cents to the average man's dollar, Latinas make just 55 cents on average. By now, hundreds of thousands of Chicago and Cook County voters have cast their ballots either by voting early or by mail. Cook County Clerk Karen Yarbo says voters have already shattered records for early voting, and the Chicago Board of Elections is expanding to include the United Center as an Election Day supersite. And for the latest news and information on any story, check out WTTW.com/news. Up next, immigration policy. What to possibly expect if Trump is reelected or Biden wins.
Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices is made possible in part by CIBC.
As the endless ads, signs, and advice to vote have most certainly made you aware, the 2020 election is just days away. This year, a record 32 million Latinos will be eligible to vote, making Latinos the largest ethnic or racial group this election. Joining us for one last look at what's most important in the community is Sylvia Puente, Executive Director of the nonpartisan Latino Policy Forum. Welcome to the show, Sylvia.
Hello, how are you?
Great. So, we've seen historic levels of early voting across the country. What kind of turnout should we expect to see among Latino voters when all is said and done?
I think we're going to see a really significant turnout among Latino voters across the nation and here even in the state of Illinois. As I think you mentioned, Hugo, we're seeing for the first time, Latinos are the largest non-white voting bloc in the nation. And NALEO, which is the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials, predicts that there are over 600,000 registered Latinos to vote in the state of Illinois, and over 500,000 will come out to vote, which is significantly more than it was in the last presidential election.
Now, for sure, the numbers are great and the expectations are higher. Are Latinos encountering trouble accessing the vote in any parts of the country, the state?
Yeah, I don't think that it's so much a concern here in Illinois. I mean, we know that Illinois is in general a pretty progressive state and obviously inclined to go blue. I think where we are seeing some concerns with whether or not people will really be able to participate are in places, especially the state of Texas for the Latino community, which we know that almost half of the electorate or a little more than half of the electorate in Texas is Latino. And they've had some real challenges, for example, by only allowing one place to drop off ballots in advance of the election per county. And you have a place like Harris County, which is where Houston is. Houston actually at this point is larger than the city of Chicago. Could you imagine that there's only one place to drop off your ballot? So I don't know that we can say it's an intentional voter suppression, but we can say that it certainly is not making it easier to vote for voters, including Latino voters, in certainly Democratic leaning areas of the state of Texas.
Now
And
we
that's
know,
a state that we know is on the margin in terms of where it's going to go, in terms of the red or blue column in this upcoming election.
now we know Hispanic Latinos vary from East to West Coast, but along ideological lines, what are some historic Latino voting patterns that you've seen?
Yeah, we know that historically the majority of Latinos do vote Democratic, but estimates are now from an organization called Latino Decisions, which has been doing some national polling across the country, that probably about a quarter of the Latino vote is inclined to go for Trump, and I think that's pretty consistent across at least the last several presidential elections, that the Latino vote is not monolithic. We are a very diverse community, but that somewhere between 25 and 30% will vote Republican. I think the highest high we've seen in recent years is President Bush got up to 40% of the Latino vote in however many years ago that was. But the overwhelming majority of Latinos, probably in around 75%, are inclined to vote Democratic.
One of the hot topics that we see in year after year is immigration policy. What do you expect if Trump is reelected? What do you expect if Biden wins?
Whew. Well, it's said in a totally nonpartisan way. We can say that I think this president has done everything he can to dismantle proactive, positive immigration policy in this nation, not only for Latino immigrants, but let's remember the Muslim ban, right? Let's remember the challenges for a lot of people that are seeking asylum. And again, there's an organization in DC called the Migration Policy Institute that has cataloged 400 actions that this policy and administrative actions that this current presidential administration has done to restrict, to hinder, to roll back, to make immigration all the more challenging. So if we have a Biden win, there's going to be a lot of damage to undo and to correct and or re-implement and restate some of the policies that have been impacted, that this Trump administration has implemented. This 400 policies, some of them are really small, some are big. Not all of them make headlines, but they really are significant, I think, in terms of this country's openness and receptiveness and welcomingness or not to immigrants, whether they be from Mexico, Latin America, or other countries. I would expect that those kinds of policies would continue under the Trump administration. We know there are some really big things at stake, like DACA, for example, and what are we going to do with all the young people that are in our country who right now, anyone who becomes a DACA recipient is not, anyone who's used to be eligible for DACA can no longer apply for DACA, given some of the other recent changes that the administration has put in place. But I think it's also just telling to look at this president who campaigned so much on wanting to build a wall really has done a lot of destructive things, as I said, like putting children in cages and really challenging things at the border. But, his biggest promise of building a wall really hasn't come to fruition.
One of the things that I wanted to touch upon before we let you go, here in Illinois, an outcome the Latino Policy Forum is hoping to see is on the graduated tax amendment. Can you give us a little bit more on what that proposal means for your organization?
Sure. The fair tax we know is specific to Illinois. It's a constitutional amendment that's on the ballot that would allow Illinois to implement a progressive income tax. It is fairly complicated in terms of the actual number of votes that's required to make it pass, but the hope is that It is a fairer tax because it is a progressive tax versus Illinois flat tax system, but it really will bring in badly needed revenue to the state, which we know can really go to address many of the organizations that the Latino Policy Forum works with, who really attempt to address the social safety net,
Great.
to really provide life-giving services for many organizations throughout the region.
Thank you so much, Sylvia Puente, for your time and insights.
If I could, Google votoyaillinois.com. It's a campaign that we've launched where voters can go to get more information on where and how to vote.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Hugo.
And for more local races, be sure to check out our WTTW News Voter Guide that offers special election coverage and details on specific races. There you can search for candidates by race or district and hear from them in their own words. That's at WTTW.com/voter guide. As we just heard from Sylvia Puente, the Latino vote is far from monolithic. This week, we spoke to 4 Latinas around Chicago and asked them about their choices in the 2020 presidential election.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Mingari from the Northwest Side GOP of Chicago, and I will be voting for President Donald Trump.
Hi, I'm Sandra Bast, and I'm voting for Joe Biden.
I'm Jasmina Velasco-Hauser, and I'm voting for Donald Trump.
I'm Dana Cruz. I will be voting on Election Day in person for Biden.
He's pro-life, he's pro-military, and he's pro-law enforcement, and he's very patriotic and cares a lot about the United States of America.
I was a Hillary Clinton supporter back in 2007, but then when Barack Obama won the nomination, I started doing research and asking, really, why am I a Democrat? Because I used to be a Democrat, but now I support President Trump. He loves our country, and he loves us. Do you know, I never felt that until I actually started listening to him rather than listening to what the media, the news media so-called, tells us what he's saying.
I'm voting for Joe Biden first and foremost to save and preserve our democracy. I believe it's being challenged right now. Second, I'm voting for him because I'm not in a better place than I was 4 years ago. Joe Biden and Obama helped us out of the recession last time around. I'm looking for that as a small business that has shut down. Latino businesses, how many of them shut down during the pandemic and during our recession right now and almost depression?
He's got Kamala Harris. I've got more of an opportunity to hear from the people in government that I want to be hearing from, like Elizabeth Warren. I feel like he will be more diverse in filling his cabinet. I feel like he's shown that he's more conscious of that, of making that effort.
So I think he's giving us a chance to express our values more and to help others and to educate other people more in politics, in religion, in education, and I think that he's helping us be more vocal because he's so outspoken that if someone outspoken as him could become the president of the United States, then Latinos and Latinas can become whatever they want to in the United States.
We had the lowest unemployment among the Hispanic community ever. And home ownership was up until the China virus came. So I'm looking forward to more of that.
Even though I'm Puerto Rican, I am very much concerned about my brothers and sisters that are brown along with me. And I'm concerned that with Trump, they're not going to get anywhere with their immigration, even if you're in the middle of processing.
I hope to see a difference in the way that we're treating people at the border who are fleeing poverty and strife. Being somebody in an urban community, you know, I do think those social safety nets are important. I do think that the government has a role in trying to make sure that all people get the care that they need, and I'm really hopeful, much more hopeful, that a Biden administration would put that at the forefront of their agenda.
What I'm hoping to see in the next 4 years with President Trump is more unity with our country. I feel that people depending on what side they're on, aren't allowed to express their morals and their values as to why they voted for Donald Trump. And I feel like we're getting excluded.
I'm hoping to see a little bit more of school choice in education, freedom with law and order, freedom to speech, freedom of religion, our protection of life, unborn babies in the womb.
I'm looking forward to all of us being united again instead of everybody pitted against everybody, and to hear that. It's very disheartening. I'm trusting all of us to come out and show that we all want to be together. That's what I'm counting on.
I feel like he's got a history as a politician of being able to reach across the aisle, to reconcile. And if there's anything our nation needs right now, it's to be able to reconcile. It's to be able to try to bring together. I really feel like he's going to try to be the president for everyone, which would be nice.
Those of you who were of voting age in the 1980s might remember the term Reagan Democrat, traditionally Democratic voters who crossed party lines to vote for Ronald Reagan. The group was still a major influence in the 1988 presidential election, but here in Chicago, then Alderman Luis Gutierrez said that the Democratic Party needed to worry less about Reagan Democrats and more about the Latino and Black communities who were reliable Democratic voters. Here's a clip from our archive from 1988 with the Late Chicago Tonight host, John Calloway.
I'm not used to Reagan Democrats. We don't have very many of them in the 26th Ward. Maybe I should become more familiar with them. I understand the Democrats in the 26th Ward and what they want to hear and what they want to talk about. They want to talk about the infrastructure of of communities such as Chicago. They want to talk how we're going to rebuild neighborhoods. They want to talk about the vacant lots.
Are they wasting their time going after Reagan Democrats?
And, well, I just want to speak that the Democrats are not really focusing on those kinds of bread and butter issues in the neighborhoods.
Well, let's summarize here for a minute. We have the congressman suggesting that they're not really taking on the issue of the jobs that they say have been lost in the Reagan administration, those middle class concerns that the congressman expressed. And now we have you saying they're missing on the inner city. I mean, you put the two together and you've got a campaign that's missing on a lot of counts. If we take your Can you answer my question? Do you feel, as you look at the way the campaign has been waged, are they wasting their time, or have they wasted their time going after Reagan Democrats?
I think that the Reagan Democrats that are going to be there are going to be there, and that they need to focus on the base of the Democratic Party. And that base of the Democratic Party, at least in the city of Chicago, that has consistently come out, been in the Hispanic and in the Black community and in low and moderate income neighborhoods throughout the city of Chicago.
This is an alebrije, a sculpture of a brightly colored, mythical creature popular in Mexican folk art. Joining me now is our arts correspondent, Angel Ido, to share details on one artist's cross-cultural painting class. Hi, Angel.
Hi, Hugo. Thanks for having me. Now, every year, Indigenous artist Carlos Orozco travels to Chicago from Oaxaca, Mexico, to teach workshops where people learn how to paint their own alebrijes, Oaxacan style. And this year, they went virtual. I recently joined in on one of the classes to learn more about the history behind these Mexican folk sculptures. Often described as mythical creatures, alebrijes are wooden animal sculptures known to be protective spirits. This Mexican folk art originated in Oaxaca, Mexico.
I learned to do alebrijes since years ago, and I realized people has no help, or any kind of support to show their work. So as an artist, with my family, we create a project called Poechicot, which means words for people.
Indigenous artist Carlos Orozco supports the collective through art workshops, where people can paint their own alebrijes and learn more about the history of Oaxaca. And while the classes were virtual this year, the turnout for the annual class was just as high.
Take, a little paint, and little by little, you put the dots like this.
So I decided to take a class myself.
Just take it by the eyes, exactly. And then you have to choose one of your favorite paints you got there. And with a brush, you have to start painting your skull.
In lieu of the Oaxacan artistic traditions, each alebrije is hand-carved out of copal wood, a reflection of Oaxaca that is made up of mostly forests. Now, when it comes to painting, the more colorful, the better.
Mostly what you really see in alebrijes are flowers, nature.
And while the alebrije sculptures come in all shapes and sizes, it's the animals Oaxacans say have the biggest impact.
In the Oaxacan culture, they are protective, of course. For example, we got some beliefs here in Oaxaca that has the connection with the alebrije that has to do something with the spirits, with the spirits of animals. In my culture, is the animal you were born with.
Despite being virtual, Carlos says he's appreciative to have this cross-cultural connection and to continue educating.
I love to travel to Chicago and to share personal experience and to teach, and educate some the people, about the culture, the history, and art from Oaxaca, and I think for me the most important thing is to make this connection. I'm trying to build a bridge, between both countries.
Now, if you're interested in taking a class, visit our website for more information. Alebrijes and all of the paint supplies can be delivered. Hugo, I also want to mention that all of the proceeds from the class will be going directly to those families in Oaxaca.
Excellent, great cause. Now, alebrijes are a young form of art form. And can you tell us a little bit about where they're from and also their history?
Yeah, so oftentimes people assume that alebrijes are connected to Dia de los Muertos. They assume that when our loved ones return, they presume these alebrijes, but they actually do not. They are their own separate entity that are just really reflective of Mexican artistic style and traditions.
I have here an armadillo. I thought it was a rat. You decided, though, to paint a skull. What was it about the skull that drew your attention?
Yes, so I painted my very own skull. As you can see, it was a lot of fun. It was just really something different. It's not something I'm too familiar with. And if you'll see, I have a lot of bright colors, which is also really reflective of the Oaxacan style in painting alebrijes.
Excellent. A+ on your for art class. Thank you so much, Angel, for sharing your story with us. And in memory to those lost this year, especially due to COVID-19, La Voz, the Chicago Sun-Times, and AARP Illinois have put together a very thoughtful virtual tribute. I invite you to visit our website for more information. Up next, the Última Palabra on why public libraries are so important for democracy. But first, Brandis and what's on tap for tomorrow.
Another great show tomorrow, Hugo. 2 days until the election, what you need to know about casting your ballot if you have not already. Plus, Illinois' Legislative Black Caucus says it's time for policy to end systemic racism and a throwback for the ages. That's tomorrow at 6 on Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
Librarian Miguel Ruiz says he's always been a believer in the power of the public library, but now they're more crucial than ever. Here he gets la última palabra, the last word, on all that public libraries do to support our communities.
I'm Miguel Ruiz, and I'm the supervising librarian at the Robert Crown Library Branch. Libraries changed my life, and not just because I became a librarian, but because growing up as a Latino and landing a job at my local library when I was a teen radically changed my self-perception. It was through browsing books while I shelved that I inadvertently learned about myself and my interests in a way that I hadn't before. In these moments, I really discovered my passion for photography, nature, community activism, and the act of learning itself. And that's just a slice of what libraries can mean to people. Public libraries play an important role in a healthy democracy and are cornerstones to an equitable society. They serve as third spaces in our communities next to our homes and places of employment. Everyone, regardless of income, ethnicity, race, gender, and other identities, can improve the well-being without fear of judgment or discrimination, which are continuous barriers for our Latino communities. Public libraries provide free service and resources that are difficult to find or are non-existent for our Latino communities, such as English as a second language classes, computer workshops, job training, citizenship classes, financial literacy, and health and wellness programs, along with cultural programming such as concerts, author visits, bilingual story times, movies, and art exhibitions. The list really goes on. As community hubs, many libraries have bilingual staff that can help navigate library and community resources. And the future of libraries really lies deeply in integrating into spaces where our communities naturally gather. Although it's disheartening to see the barriers and challenges our families face simply trying to navigate through public life, I'm continuously humbled by the dedication, hard work, and perseverance that I see every day. I find joy and pride in being a librarian because I'm able to contribute to community self-actualization and development. Unfortunately, public libraries are drastically underfunded, and social infrastructures that bring communities together are needed now more than ever. I do this work because I know we make a tangible impact and improve the well-being of our most underserved and often ignored communities. It's important that we all understand, acknowledge, and support the work that our public libraries do. I believe in and love libraries because they're truly palaces for the people.
And that's our show for this Saturday night. Be sure to check out our website, wttw.com/news, for the very latest news from WTTW News, including why Chicago's Emergency Operations Center has been activated. And of course, join Brandis Friedman tomorrow night for Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Hugo Balta. Happy Halloween, and stay healthy, stay safe. Muy buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Office.